Maya Rodriguez pulled her dad's old jacket tighter around her shoulders as she stood in front of Jefferson High School. The October wind cut through the fabric, but she barely noticed. This was her 7th school in 4 years, and she'd learned that first impressions were everything. The building looked like every other high school she'd attended. Red brick, tall windows, and groups of students clustering around the entrance like they owned the place. She checked her phone one more time. Her dad had already left for his new assignment at the nearby military base, and her mom was starting her first day at the local hospital. Maya was on her own, just like always. She took a deep breath and walked through the main doors. The hallways buzzed with the familiar sounds of teenage life. Locker doors slamming, sneakers squeaking on polished floors, and the constant chatter of students catching up after the weekend. Maya kept her head up, but her eyes down. A trick she'd perfected over the years. Look confident but don't make eye contact. Blend in without standing out. Her first class was American History with Mrs. Peterson. Maya slipped in just as the bell rang and took a seat in the back corner. She'd learned that the back was always safest. You could see everyone, but most people forgot you were there. The teacher was already talking about the Revolutionary War, something Maya had studied 3 times at 3 different schools. "All right, class, we have a new student joining us today," Mrs. Peterson announced, looking directly at Maya. "Would you like to introduce yourself?" Maya felt every pair of eyes in the room turn toward her. This was the moment she dreaded most. She stood up slowly, her hands steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "I'm Maya Rodriguez," she said in a clear voice. "My family just moved here from Colorado." She sat back down quickly, hoping that would be enough. But Mrs. Peterson wasn't done. "Maya's father is stationed at the base," the teacher continued. "I'm sure you'll all make her feel welcome." Maya wanted to disappear into her seat. She'd asked her parents not to mention the military connection, but somehow it always came up. Now everyone would know she was a military kid. Different, temporary, not really one of them. During lunch, Maya sat alone at a table near the windows. She'd brought a sandwich from home. Nothing fancy, just peanut butter and jelly on wheat bread. She watched the social groups form their usual circles around the cafeteria. The popular kids sat in the center, loud and confident. The athletes claimed the tables near the vending machines. The artists and theater kids gathered by the stage. And then there were the quiet ones, scattered at tables around the edges, just like her. "Mind if I sit here?" Maya looked up to see a boy with kind eyes and a nervous smile. He was holding a lunch tray and looked as uncomfortable as she felt. "Sure," she said, gesturing to the empty chair across from her. "I'm David," he said, settling into his seat. "I saw you in Peterson's class. History's pretty boring, right?" "It's okay," Maya replied. "Better than chemistry." David laughed. "Wait until you meet Mr. Rodriguez. I mean, Mr. Rodriguez the teacher, not you. He makes everyone call him Professor Rodriguez even though this is just high school. Super dramatic." Maya smiled, her first real smile since arriving at Jefferson. "Hi." "Sounds intense." "He's actually not bad once you get used to him," David said, taking a bite of his sandwich. "Just likes to think he's teaching college kids." "So where did you move from?" "Colorado Springs," Maya said. "Before that, North Carolina. Before that, Texas." "Wow, you've been everywhere. That must be cool seeing different places." Maya shrugged. "It's okay. Gets old after a while." She didn't mention the part about making friends and leaving them behind, or how exhausting it was to start over every year or two. David seemed nice, but Maya had learned not to get too attached. Military families moved when they were told to move, and friendships were usually temporary. After lunch, Maya had PE with Coach Williams. She changed quickly in the locker room, keeping her eyes down as the other girls chatted about weekend plans and upcoming parties. Her gym clothes were basic, black shorts and a gray t-shirt from her last school. Nothing special, nothing that would draw attention. Coach Williams had them running laps around the gymnasium. Maya fell into an easy pace, her breathing steady and controlled. Years of training had given her endurance that most high school students didn't have. She could run for miles without breaking a sweat, but she held back, staying in the middle of the pack. Standing out was never good, even for positive reasons. "Nice pace, Rodriguez," Coach Williams called out as Maya passed by. "You run track?" "Sometimes," Maya replied, which was sort of true. She'd run track at 2 of her previous schools, but never long enough to really be part of the team. As the weeks went by, Maya settled into her routine. She arrived at school on time, paid attention in class, and kept to herself during breaks. She did her homework in the library after school, partly because it was quiet, and partly because she wasn't ready to go home to an empty house. Her parents both worked long hours, and the silence at home reminded her how temporary everything felt. In her martial arts classes back in Colorado, her instructor had always talked about awareness, knowing what was happening around you without looking, like you were watching. Maya practiced this skill every day at Jefferson High. She noticed which students were the leaders and which ones were followers. She saw who got picked on and who did the picking. She watched the teachers and figured out their personalities and preferences. Most importantly, she noticed the group of girls who seemed to control the social temperature of the junior class. There were 3 of them, always together, always perfectly dressed, always talking just loud enough for others to hear their conversations. The leader was a girl with long black hair and designer clothes who walked like she owned the school. Her friends followed half a step behind, copying her expressions and agreeing with everything she said. Maya had seen groups like this at every school. They were the ones who decided who was cool and who wasn't, who got invited to parties and who got ignored. They were also usually the ones who made life difficult for students who didn't fit their idea of normal. She made sure to avoid them in the hallways and never made eye contact. Maya had learned that the best way to deal with queen bees was to stay invisible. Don't give them a reason to notice you, and maybe they'd leave you alone. But deep down, Maya knew that strategy only worked for so long. There was something about being the new girl that eventually attracted attention, no matter how hard you tried to blend in, and when that attention came, she'd have to decide whether to run or stand her ground. For now, though, Maya was content to observe and learn. Jefferson High was just another stop on her family's journey, another place to survive until the next. Orders came through. She'd done it before and she could do it again. What her classmates didn't know was that Maya Rodriguez was far from defenseless. But that was a story for another day. 2 weeks into her time at Jefferson High, Maya thought she might actually make it through the semester without any major drama. She'd kept her head down, done her work, and stayed invisible just like she'd planned. But on a rainy Tuesday morning, everything changed. It started with a simple accident in the hallway between first and second period. Maya was walking to her English class carrying her worn backpack and a stack of library books when someone bumped into her from behind. Hard. The books scattered across the floor, and Maya stumbled forward, barely catching herself before falling. "Oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry," came a voice that didn't sound sorry at all. "I didn't see you there." Maya looked up to see Brittany Chen standing over her, flanked by her 2 constant companions. Brittany was the girl Maya had been watching from a distance, the one with the expensive clothes and the attitude that said she owned the school. Her friends, Ashley and Courtney, stood behind her with matching smirks. "It's okay," Maya said quietly, kneeling down to gather her books. She'd learned long ago that the best response to bullies was no response at all. "Here, let me help," Brittany said, reaching down. But instead of helping, she accidentally kicked one of Maya's books further down the hallway. "Oops, sorry again. I'm so clumsy today." Ashley and Courtney giggled as Maya crawled after the book. A few other students stopped to watch, but no one offered to help. Maya could feel her cheeks burning with embarrassment, but she kept her face neutral. She'd been through worse than this. "You know," Brittany said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "you should really be more careful. These hallways can be dangerous if you're not paying attention." Maya stood up with her books, meeting Brittany's eyes for just a moment. She saw something there that made her stomach drop. Recognition. Brittany had noticed her, really noticed her. And Maya knew that was never. "Good news. I'll remember that," Maya said evenly, then walked away without looking back. But the damage was done. By lunchtime, Maya realized she'd been marked as Brittany's new target. It was subtle at first, the kind of thing adults would dismiss as teenage drama or accident, but Maya had been in enough schools to recognize the pattern. During lunch, Maya sat at her usual table by the windows with David. He was telling her about his weekend plans when Brittany and her friends walked by their table. "Excuse me," Brittany said sweetly, reaching across Maya to grab a napkin from the dispenser. As she did, her elbow knocked over Maya's water bottle, sending water cascading across the table and onto Maya's lap. "Oh no," Brittany gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "I'm such a mess today. Here, let me get you some napkins." She grabbed a handful of napkins and started dabbing at Maya's soaked jeans, making the situation worse by spreading the water around. Maya sat perfectly still, her hands clenched in her lap. "Thanks," Maya said through gritted teeth. "I've got it." "Are you sure?" "I feel terrible," Brittany continued, still making a show of helping while making things worse. "Maybe you should go to the nurse's office and get some dry clothes." David looked back and forth between them, confused by the tension he could feel but couldn't understand. "Maya, you okay?" "I'm fine," Maya said, standing up with water dripping from her jeans. "Just need to clean up." As she walked away, she heard Brittany's voice carry across the cafeteria. "Poor thing, it's so hard being new, isn't it?" The laughter that followed made Maya's jaw clench, but she kept walking. The next day brought more of the same. Maya arrived at her locker to find someone had taped a note to it. "Welcome to Jefferson. Hope you like it here." It seemed innocent enough, but something about it felt wrong. The handwriting was too neat, too deliberate. In chemistry class, Maya's lab partner was mysteriously absent and no one wanted to work with her. She ended up doing the entire experiment alone while Brittany's group whispered and pointed from across the room. "Don't mind them," David said after class. "Brittany's group is like that with everyone new. They'll get bored and move on to someone else." Maya nodded, but she wasn't so sure. She'd seen bullies get bored before, but she'd also seen them get worse. The key was figuring out which direction this was heading. By the end of the week, Maya had her answer. Brittany wasn't getting bored. She was getting creative. Maya's gym clothes went missing from her locker, forcing her to sit out of PE in her regular clothes. Her homework mysteriously disappeared from her desk during lunch, earning her a lecture from Mr. Rodriguez about responsibility. Someone started a rumor that Maya's family was so poor they couldn't afford school supplies, which explained why she was always borrowing pens and using old notebooks. The worst part wasn't the individual incidents. It was the way other students started treating her. Some looked at her with pity, others with suspicion. A few seemed to think she was cursed with bad luck. Maya found herself eating lunch alone more often, as even David seemed uncomfortable with the negative attention she was attracting. "You know," David said one afternoon as they walked to the library, "maybe you should talk to someone about what's happening. Like a counselor or something." Maya shook her head. "What would I say? That someone accidentally bumped into me? That my stuff keeps disappearing, that people are spreading rumors?" "Well, when you put it like that, exactly. There's no proof of anything. And even if there was, getting adults involved usually just makes things worse." David looked like he wanted to argue, but Maya could see he understood. Tattling was social. Suicide? Especially when you were already on the outside looking in. That afternoon, Maya sat in the library trying to focus on her homework, but her mind kept wandering. She thought about her martial arts training, about the discipline and control her instructors had taught her. A true warrior avoids conflict whenever possible, her sensei in Colorado had always said. But when conflict finds you, you must be ready. Maya had been avoiding conflict her whole life, moving from school to school, keeping her head down, staying invisible. But Brittany had found her anyway. The question now was what to do about it. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through the photos from her last school. There were pictures of her with friends, of her martial arts competitions, of the life she'd left behind. In one photo, she was holding a trophy from a regional tournament, her face flushed with victory and pride. That girl in the photo looked confident, strong, unafraid. Maya barely recognized her. She closed the photos and looked around the library. A few tables away, she could see Brittany's group huddled together, whispering and looking in her direction. They were planning something. Maya could tell by their body language and the way they kept glancing at her. Maya closed her books and packed up her things. She'd been at Jefferson High for less than a month, but already she could feel the familiar urge to run, to convince her parents to let her transfer schools or move to a different district. But as she walked toward the library exit, something inside her rebelled against that impulse. She was tired of running, tired of starting over, tired of letting people like Brittany decide where she belonged. For the first time since arriving at Jefferson High, Maya Rodriguez felt something other than resignation. She felt anger, and maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what she needed. The harassment got worse after Maya's third week at Jefferson High. What started as accidents in the hallway had turned into something much more calculated and cruel. Brittany had figured out that Maya wouldn't fight back, and that made her an easy target. It was Jake Morrison who made everything 10 times worse. Jake was Brittany's boyfriend, a senior with too much confidence and not enough sense. He played varsity football and thought that made him untouchable. When Brittany complained to him about the weird new girl who thinks she's better than everyone, Jake decided to get involved for his girlfriend's entertainment. The real trouble started on a Friday morning in the cafeteria. Maya was eating her usual lunch alone, trying to finish her math homework between bites of her sandwich. She'd learned to use lunchtime for studying since the library was always crowded and noisy during the day. "Hey everyone, check this out." Jake's voice boomed across the cafeteria. Maya looked up to see him pointing his phone at her, clearly recording. Her stomach dropped. She'd been through this before at her school in Texas, and it never ended well. "We've got the loneliest girl in school right here," Jake continued, getting closer to her table. "Look at her eating all by herself. That's so sad, isn't it?" A few students at nearby tables turned to watch. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed curious about the drama unfolding. Maya kept her eyes on her homework, trying to ignore him. "Come on, don't be shy," Jake said, sitting down across from her without being invited. "Tell everyone your name. You're the Army brat, right?" "Air Force," Maya corrected quietly, immediately regretting that she'd said anything at all. "Oh, Air Force. My bad," Jake laughed. "So your dad flies planes or something? That's cool. Too bad you can't fly away from here, right?" Brittany appeared at Jake's shoulder, her phone also out and recording. "Jake, don't be mean," she said in a fake sweet voice. "Maya's just having trouble making friends. It's not her fault she's different." Maya closed her textbook and started packing up her lunch. She'd lost her appetite anyway. "Where are you going?" Brittany asked. "We're just trying to be friendly. You seem lonely, so we thought we'd keep you company." "Yeah, we're being nice," Jake added. "Most people would be grateful." Maya stood up with her backpack, but Jake grabbed her math book before she could take it. "What's this? Calculus? Wow, trying to impress everyone with how smart you are?" He flipped through the pages, making exaggerated surprise faces at the camera. "Look at all these notes. This girl is such a nerd." "Can I have my book back, please?" Maya asked, her voice steady, but her hands starting to shake with anger. "Sure, but first tell everyone something interesting about yourself," Jake said, holding the book just out of her reach. "Come on, we're all friends here." Maya looked around the cafeteria. At least 20 students were watching now, some recording with their own phones. The lunch supervisors were nowhere to be seen. She was completely on her own. "There's nothing interesting to tell," Maya said. "Oh, come on, there has to be something," Brittany chimed in. "What do you do for fun? Do you even have any hobbies?" Maya thought about her martial arts training, about the hours she'd spent in dojos and gyms perfecting her technique, about the tournaments she'd won and the confidence she'd built through years of discipline, but she couldn't say any of that. It would only make things worse. "I like to read," she said finally. Jake laughed so hard he nearly dropped her book. "She likes to read. Did you hear that, everyone? The exciting new girl likes to read books." The pool video he posted that afternoon had over 200 views by the time Maya got home. The comments were brutal. Students she'd never even talked to were calling her weird, boring, a loser. Someone had even made a meme out of a screenshot of her face, adding text that said, "When you have no personality." Maya's mom found her crying in her room that evening. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" her mom asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. Maya showed her the video and the comments. Her mom's face got darker with every cruel word she read. "This is bullying," her mom said firmly. "I'm calling the school first thing Monday morning." "No, Mom, please don't," Maya begged. "That'll just make everything worse. They'll say I'm a snitch, and then more people will hate me." "Honey, you can't let them treat you like this." "I can handle it," Maya said, wiping her eyes. "I've dealt with worse." But that wasn't really true. Maya had dealt with kids who ignored her, kids who whispered behind her back, even kids who made fun of her for being the new girl. But she'd never dealt with anything this public and humiliating. The weekend gave her a break, but Monday morning brought new horrors. Someone had printed out screenshots from the video and taped them to her locker. The pictures showed her looking confused and embarrassed, with mean captions written in marker. Maya pulled them down as quickly as she could, but not before half the school had seen them. Students she passed in the hallway either stared at her with pity or snickered behind their hands. In English class, Mrs. Henderson assigned group projects. Maya watched as students quickly formed teams with their friends, leaving her sitting alone at her desk. "Maya, you can join Group 3, Mrs. Henderson said, pointing to where Brittany, Ashley, and Courtney were sitting. Maya's heart sank. This was clearly planned. Mrs. Henderson probably thought she was being helpful, but she was actually making things worse. "We'd love to have Maya in our group," Brittany said with a fake smile. "We can help her come out of her shell." The project was supposed to be about presenting a scene from Romeo and Juliet. The group met after school in the library, and Maya hoped that maybe in a more formal setting things would be different. She was wrong. "So Maya," Brittany said as soon as they sat down, "we think you should play Juliet." "That's okay. I'd rather just help with research," Maya replied. No, you'll be perfect," Ashley added. "You already look so tragic and lonely. You won't even have to act." Courtney giggled. "Yeah, and we can film the whole thing. Your performance will be so memorable." Maya realized this was another setup. They wanted to record her doing something embarrassing so they could post it online. She stood up to leave, but Brittany grabbed her arm. "Where are you going?" "We're just getting started," Brittany said, her grip tighter than necessary. "I need to go home," Maya said, pulling her arm free. "But we're supposed to work together," Brittany said loudly, loud enough for other students in the library to hear. "You can't just abandon your group, that's so irresponsible." Other students looked over, and Maya could see the judgment in their eyes. Great. Now she'd look like the girl who didn't do her share of group work on top of everything else. That afternoon, Maya walked home instead of taking the bus. She needed time to think, time to figure out what to do next. The bullying was escalating, faster than she'd expected, and her usual strategy of keeping her head down wasn't working. As she walked past the community center, she noticed a sign advertising martial arts classes. For a moment, she imagined walking in there, getting back to training, finding her confidence again. But then she remembered her promise to herself to stay invisible, to not draw any more attention. When Maya got home, she found another video, waiting for her online. This one was from the library, showing her abandoning her group project. The comments called her selfish and unreliable. Someone had even tagged her parents' workplace accounts. Maya stared at her reflection in her bedroom mirror. The girl looking back at her seemed small and defeated, nothing like the confident martial artist she used to be. She thought about her sensei's words about avoiding conflict, but also about being ready when conflict finds you. Tomorrow, she decided, things were going to change. She was tired of running, tired of hiding, and tired of letting people like Brittany and Jake control her life. She just hoped she'd remember how to fight back when the time came. Tuesday afternoon changed everything for Maya Rodriguez. She'd spent the night before thinking about her options, and by morning, she'd made a decision. She wasn't going to run anymore. She wasn't going to hide. If Brittany and her crew wanted a fight, Maya was finally ready to give them one. The setup came during lunch, just like Maya had expected it would. She was sitting at her usual table when David hurried over looking worried. "Maya, don't go to the art room after school today," he whispered urgently. "I heard Brittany telling people she's planning something. She wants you to meet her there for some fake study session." Maya looked across the cafeteria to where Brittany was sitting with her friends and Jake. They were all looking at her, whispering and smiling in a way that made her stomach turn. She could tell they thought they had her cornered. "Thanks for the warning," Maya said quietly. "But I think I'll go anyway." David's eyes went wide. "Are you crazy? They're planning to humiliate you again, probably record it and put it online." Maya nodded. "I know. That's exactly why I'm going." For the first time in weeks, Maya spent her afternoon classes actually paying attention instead of worrying about what might happen next. She felt strangely calm, like the eye of a storm. Her body remembered things her mind had tried to forget: the stance, the breathing, the way to center herself before a fight. During her last class of the day, Maya excused herself to go to the bathroom. Instead, she went to her locker and took out the small bag she'd brought from home that morning. Inside were her old training wraps, the ones she'd used in competitions back in Colorado. She wound them around her hands carefully, then pulled her sleeves down to cover them. The art room was on the 3rd floor at the end of a hallway that was usually empty after school. Maya walked there slowly, her footsteps echoing off the walls. With each step, she felt more like her old self, the girl who'd won tournaments, who'd trained with military kids twice her size, who'd never backed down from a challenge. She pushed open the art room door and stepped inside. Brittany, Ashley, Courtney, and Jake were already there, positioned around the room like they'd planned this out carefully. Jake had his phone ready, of course. "Maya," Brittany said with fake excitement. "I'm so glad you came. We wanted to apologize for how we've been treating you." Maya said nothing. She let her backpack slide off her shoulder and drop to the floor, then took a few steps into the room. Her eyes quickly scanned the space. Easels, art supplies, desks she could use for leverage if she needed to. The door behind her, windows to her left. No other exits. "We feel really bad about the videos and everything," Ashley added, moving to block Maya's path to the door. "We want to make it up to you." "Yeah," Courtney chimed in, stepping closer from the other side. "We thought maybe we could all be friends." Jake started recording, holding his phone up obviously. "This is going to be so good," he said to the camera. The weird new girl finally learns her place. Maya watched them position themselves around her, and something inside her shifted. These weren't trained fighters. They were just bullies who'd gotten used to picking on people who wouldn't fight back. They had no idea what they were dealing with. "You know what?" Maya said, her voice steady and calm. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Oh, really?" Brittany said, taking another step closer. "What kind of misunderstanding?" "You think I'm weak," Maya replied. "You think I'm some scared little military kid who'll take whatever you dish out and never fight back?" Jake laughed. "Aren't you? I mean, look at you. You've been letting us push you around for weeks." Maya smiled, and for the first time since she'd arrived at Jefferson High, it was a real smile. "I wasn't letting you do anything. I was choosing not to stop you. There's a difference." The room went quiet. Brittany's confident expression faltered for just a moment. "What's that supposed to mean?" Brittany asked. "It means," Maya said, rolling her shoulders to loosen them up, "that I gave you every chance to leave me alone. I tried to handle this the peaceful way. But you just couldn't help yourselves, could you?" Ashley moved first, probably thinking she could grab Maya from behind while Brittany distracted her from the front. It was a mistake that changed everything. Maya heard Ashley's footsteps and spun around smoothly, catching Ashley's wrist as she reached out. With a simple twist and pull, Maya used Ashley's own momentum to send her stumbling sideways into a desk. Ashley caught herself before falling, but she backed away quickly, her eyes wide with shock. "What the hell?" Jake said, lowering his phone. For a moment, Brittany tried next, raising her hand like she was going to slap Maya across the face. But Maya was ready. She caught Brittany's wrist mid-swing and applied just enough pressure to a specific point that Brittany's knees buckled. It was a technique Maya had learned in her second year of training, painful but harmless, designed to stop an attacker without causing real injury. "Let go of me," Brittany gasped, trying to pull away. "Gladly," Maya said, releasing her grip. Brittany stumbled backward, rubbing her wrist and staring at Maya like she'd never seen her before. Courtney and Jake both moved at the same time, thinking they could overwhelm her with numbers. Courtney came from the left, Jake from the right. Maya took a quick step back, grabbed the edge of an easel and used it to create space between herself and her attackers. Jake was bigger and stronger, but he telegraphed his moves like an amateur. Maya sidestepped his clumsy grab and used his forward momentum against him, guiding him past her and into a stack of chairs. The chairs clattered to the floor, and Jake went down with them, more embarrassed than hurt. Courtney hesitated, seeing what had happened to the others. That hesitation was all Maya needed. She moved forward quickly, not to attack but to demonstrate control. Courtney backed away so fast she tripped over her own feet and sat down hard on the floor. The whole thing had taken less than 30 seconds. Jake was untangling himself from the chairs. Brittany was still rubbing her wrist. Ashley was pressed against the wall, and Courtney was sitting on the floor looking stunned. None of them were seriously hurt, but all of them were looking at Maya with a new kind of respect. "Here's what's going to happen," Maya said, her voice still calm and controlled. "This ends now. No more videos, no more rumors, no more following me around or messing with my stuff. You're going to leave me alone, and you're going to leave everyone else alone too." "You can't tell us what to do," Brittany said, but her voice was shaky. Maya picked up Jake's phone from where he'd dropped it during his encounter with the chairs. The video was still recording. She held it up so they could all see the screen. "Actually, I think I can," Maya said. "See, Jake here was recording the whole thing. So now there's evidence of 4 of you ganging up on one person. I'm pretty sure the school administration would be very interested in seeing this." Jake's face went pale. "You can't use that, it's my phone." "True," Maya said, stopping the recording. "But I bet David has been recording from the hallway this whole time, just in case. Haven't you, David?" David stepped into the doorway, his phone clearly visible in his hand. "Got the whole thing," he said nervously. "Maya asked me to stay close, just to be safe." Maya handed Jake his phone back. "So here's the deal. You delete any videos you have of me, you stop bothering other students, and we all pretend this never happened. Or your parents, the school, and the police get to see exactly what kind of people you really are." Brittany looked around at her friends, all of whom were still catching their breath and nursing their bruised egos. For the first time since Maya had known her, Brittany looked uncertain. "This isn't over," Brittany said finally, but there was no real threat in her voice anymore. Maya slung her backpack over her shoulder and walked toward the door. "Yes, it is," she said without looking back. "And deep down, you know it." As Maya and David walked down the empty hallway, David shook his head in amazement. "Where did you learn to do that?" he asked. Maya smiled, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. "I'll tell you sometime. But first, let's go get some ice cream. I think we've both earned it." Behind them, the art room was very quiet. The next morning, Maya walked into Jefferson High expecting the worst. She figured word would have spread about what happened in the art room, and she'd either be in trouble with the administration or facing revenge from Brittany's group. But what she found was something completely different. Students she'd never talked to before nodded at her in the hallways. A few even said good morning. By second period, Maya realized that David wasn't the only one who'd witnessed what happened. Several students had seen parts of the confrontation through the art room windows, and the story was spreading fast. But it wasn't spreading the way Maya expected. "Is it true you know martial arts?" asked Chelsea, a quiet girl from her English class who'd never spoken to her before. Maya hesitated. "A little bit," she said carefully. "That's so cool," Chelsea continued. "I wish I knew how to defend myself like that. Brittany's group has been making my life miserable since freshman year." More students approached Maya throughout the day with similar stories. It turned out that Brittany, Ashley, Courtney, and Jake had been bullying people for years. Students who'd been too scared to speak up before were finally finding their voices. sharing experiences that made Maya's own treatment look mild in comparison. They made a kid transfer schools last year, David told her during lunch. Nobody talks about it, but everyone knows. His parents pulled him out after they posted a really humiliating video of him. Maya felt sick to her stomach. She'd stopped them from doing that to her, but how many others had suffered in silence? When she got to PE that afternoon, Coach Williams pulled her aside. "Rodriguez, I heard there was some kind of incident yesterday," he said seriously. "You want to tell me what happened?" Maya's heart sank. She'd been expecting this conversation, but she still wasn't sure how to handle it. "Some students were bothering me," she said carefully. "I defended myself." Coach Williams studied her for a moment. "Anyone get hurt?" "No, sir. Nobody was seriously injured." "Good," he said, surprising her. "Because between you and me, those kids have been problems for a long time. Maybe now they'll think twice before picking on someone else." Maya blinked in surprise. "You're not going to report it?" "Report what?" Coach Williams said with a slight smile. "Far as I heard, some students were horsing around in the art room and knocked over some chairs. Accidents happen." That afternoon, Principal Davis called Maya to his office. Maya's stomach churned as she walked down the main hallway, sure that her brief moment of freedom was about to end. But when she got to the office, she found something unexpected. Brittany, Ashley, Courtney, and Jake were already there, sitting. In chairs along the wall, they all looked miserable. "Miss Rodriguez," Principal Davis said as she entered, "please have a seat." Maya sat down in the chair across from his desk, as far from the others as possible. "I've been hearing some interesting stories about yesterday afternoon," Principal Davis continued. "Stories about harassment, bullying, and a confrontation in the art room." Maya glanced at the others. Brittany was staring at her hands, while Jake looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. "However," the principal continued, "I've also been reviewing some video evidence that was brought to my attention. Videos that show a pattern of behavior that's completely unacceptable at this school." He turned his computer monitor around so Maya could see it. On the screen was Jake's lunch video, the one where he'd humiliated her in the cafeteria. "It seems someone anonymously sent me quite a collection of material," Principal Davis said. "Videos, screenshots, social media posts, all documenting systematic harassment of multiple students over several months." Maya realized that other students must have come forward, sharing their own evidence of the bullying they'd endured. "Now, Miss Rodriguez," the principal said, "several witnesses have told me that you were defending yourself yesterday when these 4 students cornered you. Is that accurate?" "Yes, sir," Maya said quietly. "And did you use any excessive force or cause any serious injuries?" "No, sir. I just made sure they couldn't hurt me." Principal Davis nodded. "That's exactly what the witnesses said. In fact, they were quite impressed with how controlled and restrained you were." He turned to face the others. "As for you 4, you're looking at suspensions, mandatory counseling, and community service. Your parents have already been contacted, and they're not happy." Jake started to protest, but Principal Davis held up his hand. "You're lucky Miss Rodriguez showed restraint," he continued. "Because if she'd been seriously hurt, we'd be talking about criminal charges instead of school discipline." After the others were dismissed, Principal Davis asked Maya to stay behind. "I want you to know that we take bullying very seriously here," he said. "I'm sorry it took this long for us to realize what was happening. Sometimes students don't report these incidents and we can't address what we don't know about." "It's okay," Maya said. "I'm used to handling things myself." "Well, you shouldn't have to," Principal Davis replied. "But I understand you have some martial arts training?" Maya nodded. "Would you be interested in starting a self-defense club here?" "At school? We've had several students ask about it after hearing what happened. I think it could be a positive outlet, and you seem like exactly the kind of role model our students need." Maya was stunned. She'd expected punishment, not praise, and an invitation to teach others. "I'd like that," she said. "I'd like that a lot." 2 weeks later, Maya stood in the school gymnasium in front of 23 students who'd signed up for the new self-defense club. David was there, of course, along with Chelsea and several other students who'd been targets of bullying over the years. The first thing you need to understand, Maya told the group, is that martial arts isn't about fighting. It's about confidence, discipline, and only using your skills when you absolutely have to. She demonstrated some basic techniques, teaching them how to stand, how to breathe, and how to project confidence even when they felt scared. Most bullies are looking for easy targets, Maya explained. If you carry yourself with confidence and show that you won't be pushed around, many of them will move on to someone else. After the club meeting, Maya was packing up her equipment when someone cleared their throat behind her. She turned around to find Brittany standing in the doorway, looking nervous and uncomfortable. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Brittany asked, quietly. Maya tensed up, wondering if this was some kind of trick. But Brittany looked genuinely upset, not angry or plotting. "What do you want?" Maya asked cautiously. "I wanted to apologize," Brittany said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Really apologize, not the fake stuff I did before." Maya waited, not making it easy for her. "I've been in therapy since I got suspended," Brittany continued, talking about why I acted the way I did, and I realized that I was taking out my own problems on other people. "That doesn't excuse what you did to me," Maya said firmly, "or what you did to other students." "I know," Brittany said, tears starting to form in her eyes. "I know it doesn't. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying to change. I'm trying to be better." Maya studied Brittany's face, looking for signs of deception, but all she saw was genuine remorse and embarrassment. "Okay," Maya said finally. "I accept your apology. But actions matter more than words. If you really want to change, you need to prove it." Brittany nodded eagerly. "I will. I promise I will." 3 months later, Maya was surprised to see Brittany sign up for the self-defense club. She was even more surprised when Brittany stuck with it, working hard and treating everyone with respect. "Why did you join?" Maya asked her after a particularly challenging practice session. "Because I want to learn how to be strong without hurting other people," Brittany replied. "You showed me that was possible." By the end of the school year, Maya's self-defense club had grown to over 40 members. Students were more confident, bullying incidents had dropped dramatically, and Maya had found something she'd never had before, a place where she truly belonged. On the last day of school, David found Maya cleaning out her locker. "So you think you'll stick around?" he asked jokingly. "Or is your family moving again this summer?" Maya smiled and closed her locker door. "Actually, my dad got assigned to the base permanently. We're staying put for the next 4 years." "That's awesome," David said. "Jefferson High won't be the same without you." Maya looked around the hallway, watching students laughing and saying goodbye to friends. For the first time in her life, she was sad to see a school year end instead of relieved. "No," she said, slinging her backpack over her shoulder. "I don't think it will be." As Maya walked out of Jefferson High that day, she wasn't the same scared, invisible girl who'd walked in 7 months earlier. She was confident, respected, and surrounded by real friends. Most importantly, she'd learned that sometimes standing up for yourself means teaching others to stand up too. And that lesson was worth more than any trophy she'd ever won.